Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. If you have been following developments across the continent in recent months, then you would agree that democracy in Africa is not a one-size-fits-all system of governance, and judging the effectiveness of leadership requires more than a single story. Today, the outcome of a democratic process takes us to Cameroon, where one of the world's most experienced autocrats has just clinched another 7-year term, becoming the second longest ruling head of state in the world without being a monarch. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on political developments in Cameroon, where 85-year-old Paul Biya is set to remain as president until 2025? You can join the conversation and, of course, share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We'll take a report, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Cameroon's President Paul Biya recently won an emphatic election with 71% of the vote, extending its 36 rule and cementing his place as one of Africa's longest-standing rulers. The widely expected win gives the 85-year-old a 7th term in office and could see him in power until at least the age of 92. The only current African president to have ruled longer is Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. Most Cameroonians have known just one president.
I'm full of emotion and joy because the CPDM has won, but we will remain as Cameroonians because we should live together. CPDM has won, but it's a joy for Cameroon because we are all Cameroonians and we should be together. A victory or a defeat, we must stay together. We should be happy.
We are very happy that the Cameroonian people have voted for Paul Biya. Paul Biya is a guarantor of peace, success, prosperity, and living together because he doesn't encourage people who say those from the north cannot talk to those of the south. Those from the west should be against those of the east. He has taken us all as brothers in the same family. That is why we have chosen our president. I'm telling you the truth. Yes, I'm telling you the truth. Yes.
Victory in the October the 7th poll came amid claims from opposition candidates that the election was marred by fraud, including ballot stuffing and voter intimidation. The Constitutional Council has, however, rejected all 18 petitions claiming fraud. In addition, violence connected to a separatist movement in the Western Anglophone regions forced tens of thousands to flee in the lead-up to the vote and kept the vast majority there from casting their ballot. The announcement follows 2 weeks of political tension in the coffee and oil-producing country, during which Biya's leading rival, Maurice Kamto, claimed victory based on his campaign figures, and as police tried to silence opposition marches in the port city of Douala. These official results show Kamto won 14% of the vote. Biya won with a big margin in 9 of the 10 regions. In the south and east regions, it won over 90% of the vote.
Welcome back. Now, before we get into the discussion of the day, let's update you on some of the top news stories around Africa. Ethiopian lawmakers will meet to appoint a new president, a largely ceremonial post in the Horn of Africa nation. The new president will take over from Mulatu Teshome, who has served in the position for the last 5 years. Egyptian officials say security forces have killed 11 people, 11 armed men, and with assault rifles in the firefight that began during a dawn raid on the desert cave south of Cairo. And Cameroon's government has issued a public tender for the construction of a new residence for the new president of the Constitutional Court, the same legal body that just 2 days ago announced the re-election of longtime President Paul Biya. Now joining me to look at the political developments in Cameroon, where 85-year-old Paul Biya is set to remain as president until 2025, I have Yannick Fonke, editor, Green Vision newspaper in Cameroon. And on the phone, I have Dr. Uche Igwe, Doctorate Research Fellow, University of Sussex, United Kingdom. Good to have you gentlemen on the program.
Thank you very much.
Right, let me begin with you now, Mr. Yannick. What are your thoughts on the factors responsible for the emergence of Paul Biya as a president for the 7th time?
First of all, thank you very much, Esther, for the opportunity. I should start by saying that President Paul Biya, for over 36 years now, has mobilized a very strong foundation around himself with his party, the Cameroon People Democratic Movement, the CPDM party. And because of that, the party controls a three-quarter of the political discourse of the country. And that gives him a lot of grief, in part, coupled with the fact that the institutions that are serving the nation are also paying allegiance to his party. So the party does not only have political influence, it also has a financial backing. So that makes it very difficult for any opposition to make his way on top when President Paul Biya's party, the CPDM party, comes into play. So first of all, that is one thing that gives him the grip. The other thing is about the fear of the unknown. It would appear that many Cameroonians, especially those who are working in government or who are heading offices that office of authority, they seem to have this fear of inertia, wherein they would not want to give the opportunity for another person to head the country because they are scared, probably because they would be audited or they would not have the opportunity they had if President Paul Biya were there. So you see that put all of these things together, President Paul Biya tends to have a lot of grief in the political dynamics of the country.
But aside from these fears, are there any legitimate reasons, like for instance, his achievements? You would say that Paul Biya has bequeathed to the Cameroonian people?
Now, when we go into the legitimacy aspect, I'm going to speak from a personal, from my personal opinion, because I haven't sampled the opinion of others. But going by the political atmosphere in the country, there should be a lot of on-the-ground works that go to ensure that the status quo is put into play. That's the President Paul Biya and his elements in the government. A lot was said, especially after the elections, with regards to rigging, with regards to some form of unhealthy practices that marred the election. So, and that has been going on for almost all the time elections have been organized in the country, especially the presidential election. There's been this aspect of opposition complaining that the elections have been marred with fraud, and even international bodies have also put that. And many thought this 2018 was supposed to be the epic moment for a change so long by Cameroonians in the country, and President Paul Biya would not have that much vote as he always commands in the past. But going by the percentage we have, we see that nothing changed, even with a lot of opposition, political awareness and renaissance that were put across the country, even out of the country. Nothing changed in terms of the voting percentage, the result percentage. President Paul Biya still commanded the landslide percentages that he's been doing so in the past, giving some, raising some eyebrows as to whether truly he merited all of those results, coupled with the fact also that the opposition tabled some very strong petitions at the level of the Constitutional Council, but all of those things were watered down The credibility of the elections, I tell you, were called to questions, especially after the Constitutional Council proclaimed the result.
And with the opposition right now, from your analysis, it could mean that they are weakened. So what is left for them now? Because going forward, do we have a strong opposition in Cameroon?
By and large, Cameroon has a very strong opposition. Cameroon has a vibrant opposition. Unfortunately, the system in place has not given a level ground for the opposition to operate. I would give you reasons again on a personal observation. Now, you realize that the CPDM party does not only run as a political party, but it also runs as an institution in government. Now, it runs as a state. You realize that the ministers who are supposed to serve all Cameroonians, including those of the opposition, are all rallying behind the CPDM party, that's the main, the ruling party. And during campaigns, during electoral periods, they are all there campaigning. The governors, the senior divisional officers, the administrators who are there to serve the people and are supposed by constitution to be apolitical are there serving the government, or they are serving the ruling party. So when you see this open or blatant form of fraud in the making, you would draw the conclusion that even some of the efforts that the opposition are putting down the drain will be watered down. And again, just to tell you that the opposition parties are limited. During the election period, you realize that the head of state, President Paul Biya, had his effigy littered almost everywhere in the country. Now, it is against the electoral code for such a thing to happen, but because the institutions that are supposed to fact check and check the integrity of how the things are going on are under his tutelage, are under his command, tend to give a deaf ear or a blind eye to some of these things. So the many things that the opposition is doing would not come to the fore, would not be shown, and all the credit to go to the CPDM. But then I want to remark on one thing. The coming of the social media has played a very great role in the renaissance of the Cameroon electoral suffrage.
Right.
That's the Cameroonians.
Right.
Many Cameroonians now are reawakening about the electoral, the election itself and the political dynamism as a whole in the country.
All right, let's hold your thoughts for now. Yannick, we need to go on a very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we'll be looking at political developments in Cameroon, where 85-year-old Paul Biya is set to remain as president for a 7th time.
Cameroon's president.
Welcome back. Paul Biya has been a part of Cameroon's government in the last 50 years, successfully as Secretary General to Presidency in 1968, Prime Minister in 1975, and President since 1982. Well, Paul Biya, who will be 92 at the end of his 7th term in office, is the second longest serving ruler in Africa after Theodoro Obiang of Equatorial Guinea. Well, I now have Dr. Uche Igwe, Doctorate Research Fellow, University of Sussex. Oh dear, it seems we have lost him on the line right now. But let's quickly go back to Yannick Fonke, editor, Green Vision newspaper in Cameroon. Now, Yannick, you pointedly raised out that the opposition needs to do a lot of work if it has to, fight against the ruling party in Cameroon. But aside from that now, the ruling government, what are the challenges right now for the government under Paul Biya? Because already the country is facing Anglophone crisis and so many other social issues. What are the issues do you think he will be left to contend with, and how can he solve them?
Um, I think that Cameroon is undergoing a lot of turbulence at the moment, especially with regards to the economic sector, with regards to the security sector, and at a lesser extent with regards to the political sector. Let me begin with the political sector. Um, the president is supposed to rally all the warring factions who are contesting his legitimacy at the moment. One of them being Maurice Kamto, the flag bearer for the opposition Cameroon Renaissance Movement, who indeed has reawakened many Cameroonians as the party's slogan goes. That presidential candidate has not admitted that President Paul Biya has won, and he has indicated that he shall use all legal forces to ensure that his rightful desired position is given. Remember that he's a legal mind by himself, and it is his legal strength that gave Cameroon the Bakassi Peninsula, where he fought very hard using his legal prowess and helped Cameroon regain Bakassi Peninsula from Nigeria. So he has not accepted, coupled with another presidential candidate, Cabral Libri, who has been very opposed to the legitimacy of President Paul Biya with regards to the just ended election. So President Paul Biya is supposed to bring these political actors together and ensure that they reason with him so they can drive this country to its emergence as we are all envisaging. The second thing, the security aspect. Cameroon since 2013 has been very unstable security-wise because we have been hit at three different corners of our nation, and our territorial integrity is questioned. In the far north, or in the northern part, we have the Boko Haram insurgency that you know very well. In the eastern part of Cameroon, we have the rebels from the Central African Republic, the Seleka rebels and the anti-Baraka rebels, who are always coming into Cameroon border to plan offensives for their country. And in that case, they have some head-ups with our military or our security forces. And that too is a problem in the country.
So
And
clearly
then
there
in
is
the
a lot
southern
on the
part
plate of
country,
President Paul Biya as we speak in terms of security and, of course, political issues on the ground. But let me quickly turn the attention now to Dr. Uche Igwe, who is back on phone, the Directorate Research Fellow, and he joins me via phone from Kano in northern Nigeria. Good to have you right now on the program. So we've been assessing the whole election that just recently happened in Cameroon and saw the election of Paul Biya. What are your thoughts on how he emerged as the president for the seventh time, even though there have been cries of fraud and allegations by the opposition?
Well, I think that it is very clear that Mr. Paul Biya has overstayed his welcome and betrayed his vision, if he ever had one. Obviously, with the kind of voters turnout, especially in the English-speaking part of the country, it is obvious that the participation for that election was very low, which, in my view, questions even his legitimacy. So I think that, in my view, is we have another Robert Mugabe, in the making. In Paul Biya, and I think it is important for him to begin to prepare for his own send forth.
His own send forth, what do you mean by that, Dr. Uche Igwe? Could you be more expatient on that?
I think that he should understand that he has overstayed his welcome and begin clear reforms, that will lead to his exit and an emergence of a leadership that is widely accepted, especially because of the kind of secession and violent issues he's experiencing. part of the ways to woo the rebels, in my view, is to step down from power, or if can't, initiate far-reaching reforms that would make for a free and fair election. I mean, look at the figures we're looking at, 71.3%. For a president who has stayed that long, it is obvious that such election that produced him, in my view, can neither be free nor fair. So I think there's a legitimacy crisis which he should very, very quickly avert by initiating far-reaching reforms that is inclusive, that will also help douse the tension in several parts of the country where a whole lot of killing, brutality and resistance.
Now, talking about legitimacy concerns, Dr. Uche Igwe, our guest earlier on mentioned that he has a lot to do in terms of harmonizing all parties who are against his 7th time in office. Aside from, those kicking on his election, what other ways do you think he can be able to do to perhaps move the country forward away from the crisis of Anglophone regions and also societal issues? What do you think the president can do at this time?
I think that what is clear is that for a dictator, it's normal that he would use repressive tactics to begin to suppress voices of opposition, run, a state-controlled media and use security forces to intimidate, voices in the opposition. This is exactly what is happening. If you see the very little votes that the next person who challenged him got, it's obvious that, the space is not free. So I think what he needs to do is to open up the space, allow for voices that are not necessarily supportive of what he's doing, and allow for participation and inclusion. Over the years, the Anglophone part of the country have felt marginalized in the scheme of things, and I think that one way to go forward is to initiate a program of integration so that these people will understand that, we're coming from the Nigerian experience.
Right.
We had the issue of Biafra. I see some similarity between what is going on in the Anglophone part of Cameroon to what inspired the Biafra in the late 60s and early 70s in Nigeria. So I think that Biya has an opportunity to learn from the experiences of Nigeria, his neighbor, and be able to initiate very inclusive approach to governance.
All right.
That will douse the tension.
Okay,
so inclusiveness, participation, more democracy, and open up the opposition and free media is the way to go for him to get any legitimacy.
All right, point taken there. Let's quickly get the thoughts of Yannick Fonke. I'm sorry for interrupting you there, Uche Igwe. Yannick Fonke, closing remarks now. Where do you think Cameroon can be the best or be the better than it is now?
I think that President Paul Biya has nothing to lose with regards to his political evolution, because he's done it all. He's been there for 36 years. He has to start building a legacy at the moment. And for him to do so, I think that President Paul Biya should listen to dissenting voices. Right. What has been killing, in quotes, the government of President Paul Biya is that they have been applying the colonial method of ruling. That's using some kind of dictatorial means of ruling the people, repressive means. I think that President Paul Biya can keep all of those things aside and begin listening to the people. The Anglophone crisis would not have gone to this far if President Paul Biya listened to the voices of the people when they started calling and solve the problem. We need a national dialogue. Another thing President Paul Biya has to do is he has to clamp on corruption. Corruption has hit his government since 1982, and that has been his trademark. I think that most of his allies have taken the opportunity that he's aging and he's not able to check on some of their activities to rid this country of some of its benefits.
All right.
So President Paul Biya is supposed to keep aside all of those political allies and political affinities,
all right,
and take people who are serious.
All right, let's leave it at that.
country
Yannick Funke, we appreciate your analysis on Africa Today. Thank you because of time. We appreciate your thoughts as well. Dr. Uche Igwe, Doctorate Research Fellow. We appreciate all our guests on the show. Often regarded as of government of the people, for the people, and by the people, democracy in Africa looks more like glass half empty, with governance reduced to a contest for power to rule rather than an opportunity to lead. Perhaps another missed opportunity for change and hope to the majority of young Cameroonians who haven't seen any other leader in their lifetime, with the world watching to see what lies now ahead for the Central African nation under President Paul Biya. And that's our package for tonight. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.